Should we doing a scuffle?
Also, dude, just like why? Like, can we just not do the whole fucking like nut hugging that they were doing for a certain orange gentleman?
Let's go at the 5-minute mark of the recording.
Count them in, Dave.
Let's get ready to rumble! Yes! Yes! Let's get it on! So what you want, this ain't gonna last long. What you want, man?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, gang. Welcome once again to the show that sprung from nothing. This is Just Bleed Radio's Sunday Night Scuffle. 30 minutes, 3 questions, and a trio of nitwits. We record on a Sunday. We release it on a Tuesday. Anyways, you already know what it is if you're watching this. So go ahead and hit that like button, ring the bell, and let's go. All right, guys. Allow me to go first, if you will. And I'm going to harken back to Saturday night. All right, guys, allow me to go first, if you will, and I'm going to harken back to Saturday night and UFC 314 a little bit. We all watched the co-main event where we saw Paddy Pimblett completely manhandle Michael Chandler, and I'm not here to take anything away from Paddy because I think he looked spectacular, but it did raise a question in my mind. Was Michael Chandler ever really that good? The man has never really advanced. He's never progressed. The run in Bellator with the fun fights against Eddie Alvarez were all well and good. The wars in the UFC with the Justin Gaethjes and the Dustin Poiriers of the world were fun, but it was the same Michael Chandler from day one until now. So my question is, guys, did Michael Chandler pull the wool over all of our eyes for so many years and skate by on pure athleticism with minimal skill? What do you guys think?
I could give a very quick opinion on this one because I can't say that much. I was never that much into Bellator at the time when Chandler was there. That's much more Austin's thing than mine, even though I did occasionally pirate the occasional show. So I've only really seen what he's done in the UFC, which has been fun, but it hasn't been super impressive, I guess. He's had one win, or is it 2 wins while he's been there? He's fought some really tough people. Don't get me wrong. He's always, like I say, he's always entertaining. Yeah, there's a lot of athleticism in him there. I think he's one of those guys who's come through on his wrestling. That seems to be the way he's come through it mainly, combined with that athleticism that is built in. So that's the impression I would get of him. He's bludgeoned his way through that way. He's got some talent, but yeah. The guy who does 3 or 4 backflips in a row after he's just done a 3-round fight, that's some natural talent or some unnatural talent. I doubt that's true. So yeah, I guess that's all I can really say. I'm sure Austin will have more to say because he will have seen more of him when he was with Bellator.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like you're right on that. Like, his wrestling is clearly his base, but he really never used that throughout his career very much. Like, he used it a little bit, last night against Paddy, but that what should have been his bread and butter typically wasn't. He just liked to throw his fucking hands and swing and go crazy like a fucking ape out there. But Austin, what do you think? Is Chandler just a guy who skated by on sheer athleticism and we kind of overlooked the guy's lack of skill for all these years?
It's a tough question because it's asking, was Chandler ever that good in Bellator? And that's not the case because you remember, Lazy. We've all seen Chandler inside of Bellator. He had a fight of the year candidate when he fought Eddie Alvarez the first time. The second fight wasn't even that bad either. It was actually really good. He was a young, capable, athletic wrestler who didn't really have as much skill as the rest of them, but he was fucking tenacious. That dude still exists. It's just he traded his tenacity for excitement. And I think that's what's led us to this position where we're questioning how good he actually was. Because if you remember back in the Bellator days, that dude could beat anybody on any given night, and he did more often than not. I mean, hell, like his 2 losses alone to Will Brooks, who was at the time only 18-1. It just shows that he was capable. And Will Brooks washed out of the UFC after his first win, 3 submission losses in a row. Chandler comes in, knocks out Dan Hooker. All right, he's still capable because he was coming off of a knockout loss himself to Patricio, and then I think beating Benson Henderson. So we weren't getting Chandler at his prime anymore. That was for sure. I mean, he could have come in, I think, 5 years prior to that, but still, like the Michael Chandler, this is, I think, a probably more clearer analogy. When an older player in the NBA, NFL, or MLB hockey gets a contract for X amount and they don't exactly live up to that contract because they're injured or there's some something that's keeping them out of competition, they're not living up to the expectations of what they did prior with the former team or what they did with the team previously. They're just kind of there, and you're kind of wondering, well, what did we pay for? This is what we were paying for. A guy who did the best that he could have in a former organization. And what did Chandler say? I'm here for a good time, not a long time. For some reason, that also meant sitting out 2 years for Connor. So I think that also kind of came into play with it. I think he overplayed his hand, and I'm not even probably sure he beats half of the top 10. But had he done that, man, like just slow building him like we should have, he might have actually gotten a regular title shot and probably beaten somebody that was there. But not Makachev, Khabib. I mean, he might have been able to beat Charles at one point, but that ship has sailed, and I think that's what we ended up with.
What you're saying basically is Chandler is the Gaethje that never grew up.
Yeah, but more or less. I think that in a way, Michael Chandler is Michael Chandler's own worst enemy because what really got me thinking about it was even his fun fights, like we were talking about back in Bellator, the Eddie Alvarez fights, the Wilbrooks fights, etc. He was better back then because he was younger, so he could skate by more on his athleticism. The guy's stubbornness and his unwillingness to follow a game plan that could win him fights or to fight intelligently has always bitten him in the ass in the biggest moments of his career. And it's like you have a guy who has all the tools and he had God-given ability and strength and speed and explosiveness that if he had really put the pieces together, he could have really been somebody in this game. And it's I don't know, it's kind of a shame because he never, despite having great coaches around him, a great team, he never really put it together. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like as much success as he had and credit as he gets, he did it all on just fucking being a tank. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap up on that. DangerMouse, I understand that you might have a question from one of our viewers that you would like to share. So if you want, go ahead.
I do indeed, yeah. I was just looking to see if I could find the screenshot of it, but I can't. It was Greg. Remind me of his surname. I know you'd said you'd found it.
Greg Gidley, I believe is his name. Greg Gidley.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Greg. Because I was really, really struggling for a question today. Yeah, the question he said was, we've had several generations now of martial arts fighters. We've gone all the way from the times of the Gracies back in the really, really old days through to, I don't know how many generations of fight. We've had at least 3, I would say, given that the sport's been going 30 years. But we don't seem to have had the same turnover in referees. We seem to have been stuck with a lot of the same referees. Now, obviously, they're older. They don't have to be as young. They can carry on much further than fighters. But is it time we start to see some more? Is it time for a turnover in the generation of referees? I think that's what he was asking anyway.
I feel like it's a perfect question for you to kick us off on, Austin.
Do you guys know of anybody that does any kind of officiating? And the only reason why I ask is because I used to do youth wrestling. I've been around a wrestling room, and just for people to kind of go there, if you've ever been around youth sports, to get people to be willing to do additional, like, reffing, judging for any number of youth programs, it takes a lot. You got to deal with commissions or athletic districts, right? You have to deal with parents and travel and very little pay. Not to mention, there's like I think a baseball umpire that I seen at a number of the games that our kids had 5 games, I think, that weekend, and you could tell it kind of wears on you. And that's just on this. That's a separate level, right? If you're talking about refs and judges, they have to be in there for a very long time in California just to be able to get licensed on a regular basis on a regional level. And then on top of it, you also have to put in a number of events where you're not really getting paid. Top that off with the already kind of older heads that stay there, a majority of which are good, but Beltran is not one of them. I think it's the road is so long and there's not enough people that are doing it on a regular basis, and that's why we haven't seen any turnover. I mean, think about it. Who do we see on a regular basis? They're people who are constantly doing seminars and they're constantly doing stuff on the road with the same group of promotions. They don't change because it's hard to get people to go. I mean, you want to travel around your state doing local shows for very little money, if any money at all, every Saturday night. That sounds fucking terrible, But that is what is required for you to be a good judge, ref, timekeeper, whatever. Your commission is supposed to be able to set this up, and not all commissions do that. Hell, not even all commissions keep up with that shit. Hey, we just got a random dude who happened to do one regional thing, and he hasn't refed or judged in 15 years, but he's doing it on a major promotion because he's our guy. Like, there's no consistency per state on a state by state basis, so that doesn't help. So I would say the problem is there's not a consistency on good judging programs or reffing programs where you can get people from the ground level up in a short amount of time. So I would say that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is an issue with getting more, but to more address what I think was Greg's question, I think we are due for a turnover in referees. I think we are due for a newer generation, and we are kind of seeing it slip in and sneak in a little bit. We're actually starting to see former fighters kind of sneaking in and being referees. We're seeing the Chris Liebens and the Frank Triggs of the world get their time to officiate fights. So, yeah, I definitely do think that we are due for a phasing out of some of the older generation of officials and a birthing of a new generation. But I also get what Austin's saying, where there's not a lot of incentive for a younger generation of people to get into refereeing for all the reasons he named. And then also, refs kind of got it tough. I mean, from as again, like you mentioned, Austin, from youth sports officiating like a little league baseball game all the way up to the biggest stage, like a UFC fight or officiating an NBA basketball game or something like that, you're under a lot of fucking scrutiny. Like the spotlight is on you. The littlest mistakes you make are magnified and thrown in your face. You're memed, you're vilified, etc. So it's a tough position to expect this younger generation who maybe hasn't been exposed to the sport for as long or isn't as tenured in the game to think that they're going to want to jump through all the hoops and to make all the sacrifices it's going to take to get into officiating. And if you watch the fucking Weighing In podcast, which is not my favorite, but Big John holds a yearly refereeing course in Las Vegas at Extreme Couture, where you can go and you can take the course to learn from the OG himself to become an MMA referee or a combat sports referee in general. And he says repeatedly, it's extremely fucking hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. So you get all these things that are cons to the job, and then you also have the fact that it's hard to even become one. Yeah, I can see why we're stuck with a limited number of referees.
Yeah, like you both said, they have to come up through the game. I think Goddard, he's had a couple of MMA fights. I think Herb Dean had a couple of fights. There's probably others that have had fights in the game. And yeah, like you said, it takes time to come through it, and you have to lay out some cash as well. No one's going to pay you to learn to be a referee, unless maybe your father wants you to do it or something weird like that. So yeah, I didn't know enough really about this to talk about it. Certainly not in the way that Austin's gone over things, and that makes complete sense. Yeah, it's just going to take time for people to come through, and of course, by the time there are people coming through, you've got those people at the top of the sport who have the reputation, whether it's deserved or not at the moment. Herb Dean, gold standard, maybe once upon a time, not so much now. As I think I'm getting a hint from Dave there. I'm not sure. Is that a Waffle Mouse warning or what?
No, that was just me making a fun edit for a fun meme for Austin because I cut him off.
I only just recognized the face in it. I thought it was Paddy. You're gonna have to tell me that, Dave. This needs to go in the show.
I was very hammered when that happened.
Yes, sorry, Greg. Yeah, I can't really add anything more to what's already been said. It's going to take time. Sorry, that's where I was before Dave flipped me with the bird with my own avatar. The guys at the top of the game are not going to be easy to remove, and I guess some people might want to get rid of them because they're expensive, but at the same time, you're getting reliability, and that's what people want. If you're a promoter, you want the best referees on your show. You don't want some idiot who's going to allow someone to be choked to death in the cage in front of 10,000 people. So yeah, it's going to take time for them to move on. Some of them are just going to have to decide they don't want to do it anymore. I think.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who this next generation that comes up is. That'll be kind of fun because for all we know, maybe there is a young class of referees that is on the come up right now, and maybe these guys will actually enforce fouls and deduct points.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right, Austin.
Yeah.
Austin, you've had some time now to sit and stew on your question and come up with something good. So, you got anything for us today on this Sunday Night Scuffle?
Yes, I had different versions of it in my head, but the version I think that fits for what we're looking at now, as a part of what happened last night with Patricia Pitbull, is the UFC's talent acquisition policy good or bad for the sport? And what I mean by that is, we just seen examples of where we get young guys or guys who are still at the peak of their powers or prime, like the gentleman who beat Alex Pereira in kickboxing, and they offered him 10 and 10, right? That was like the best they can do for him or something, right? That off of the Contender Series, right? Because he won,
Yeah.
and he said no. That's it. Apparently, the best they could do was 10 and 10. Interesting.
Wasn't that just to do with the fact that he'd come through the Contender Series?
No, they had asked him, this was the best that they can do. Are you willing to take it? And he was like, well, can we go up more? And they said, no, that was it. And I believe they've made exceptions for other people based on wherever, Jai Herbert, I think, was making like a 25 and 25 coming into the UFC.
I know they didn't. They didn't for Paddy Pimblett.
That was the thing. He also got a deal with Dave Portnoy for I think sponsoring it. So he Barstool gave him additional money on top of what he was making. So that's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
The UFC's policy seems to be, unless you're willing to take less to be here, we're not going to go out of our way to bring in good talent. And if by the time they actually do bring in good talent, it's either they're old or not at the peak of their powers anymore, as we've seen with Patricio and now Michael Chandler. So is it their policy that's hurting MMA? By which I'm saying, like, they don't care if they're bringing in the best anymore or the guys that were the best at their best. Does it hurt the sport overall? I guess.
Hmm. Want me to shoot first on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say, and I hate to say this because this sounds complimentary of the UFC, and this is not how I'm attending it. I do not think that it's hurting MMA because now, while it does keep some of the best names from being in the best quote unquote organization, it gives other organizations outside of the UFC, no matter how reputable they are or profitable they are, it gives them an opportunity to sign these guys and it gives them a chance to get these big names on their rosters to draw some eyes and attention to their promotions, which I'm all for that because I'm all for, you know, there being multiple landing places for MMA fighters to go to outside of the UFC. Now, I will say that it could be hurting their product, the product that they're selling to us, but I don't think that they really fucking care. I think that they've basically come to the point where they've realized that this machine is running so smoothly, it's virtually on autopilot. And even if Alex Pereira, Ilya Taporia, Islam Makhachev, and Alexander Volkanovski left tomorrow, they're not gonna fucking sweat it because they'll churn out more stars. They always do. They always create somebody that's gonna fucking be their new face, their new name to the brand. So it sucks for us, the viewer. It sucks for certain fighters, but I think it just is what it is, and that's how it's going to be. And we got to look at the bright side that it gives smaller organizations an opportunity to sign these guys that they're not willing to cut the check for. Last thing I'll add on this is I can say from hearing recently on the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan, typically, and this is anyone who's not like an Aaron Pico or a Horiguchi or somebody like that, that's a big name that signs with the UFC. These are the numbers. If you come in off Contender Series, you're signed to a 10-10. If you come in from anywhere else other than Contender Series, you're signed to a 12-12. And if you come in on short notice, you're signed to a 14-14. That's their standard deals. That's pretty fucking cheap, but like I said, they're gonna get people no matter what they pay or what they do. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because it, like you said, because you forget that other promotions need stars in order for a healthy ecosystem in MMA to exist. So sometimes it sucks for us as fans, but it's good for the landscape and overall if they get to keep some of those stars where they're at. Not ideal for us to want to see them all fight, but other promotions need stars as well. Good point. Mouse, how about you?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I can go a little on this one. We will see how this works out next year when Dakota Ditchever becomes free. We'll see whether she ends up in the UFC or not. Maybe we'll find out how much they offer her to get into it. I suspect they're going to have to offer. I'm not sure what they're going to do. Maybe they come in and offer. Do we know how much these guys who came in and like took a title fight immediately? Have we any idea how much those guys got paid?
I can't say for specific. That's probably more of a case by case basis. I bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
weight class also matters.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I don't actually want them to do that for Dakota. I think for her, it won't matter. She's got that $1 million behind her. She wants to compete. She'll fight at that 14 grand or whatever, 12, 14 grand, because she knows at the end of the first year, there's going to be 3 unconscious girls on the floor and she's going to boost her contract by the end of it. But that's not the same for everybody in the game, obviously. You have those people who do not have that star power that Dakota has. Because I don't think the UFC overly bothers recruiting for stars because enough people come to them and want it, and they hear it all through the lower leagues anyway. I'm presuming they must have someone that tells them what's going off, and so people like her are going to pop into their attention. And some of the lesser guys, yeah, they're going to nose you, but these guys who aren't well known are going to want to come through the Contender Series. They're going to want to compete on Tough or whatever it is. all those fighters want that name that's attached to being in the UFC, and they're gambling that they can make a success of their career and profit from that initial investment, which will be a relatively low one. Or you have the other fighters who are going to places like PFL because they know that they can have a chance at winning $1 million in a year or $500,000 in a year, wherever it may be. So yeah, it's spreading the talent out. It's allowing them somewhat to go where they want. But I think for must be 90% of fighters, they want to end up in the UFC. They know where that's where the name is. That's where the real belts are. I know we've had the thing with Luke recently about belts being made up things, and they are, but made up belt or not, it's the one that everyone wants in the mixed martial arts game. So I don't think the UFC is particularly damaging its own product because people want to be in it. And we again going back to Conor, when Conor started disappearing, there were loads of people going, "Oh, the UFC, what's it going to do? How's it going to replace Conor? Does anyone care Conor's gone? Do any of us care that Conor's gone? I'm glad to see the back of him, quite frankly. And there's been other guys that they've come and gone. I've maybe loved them fighting, but once they're gone, I say they're gone. They're just wiped from the memory because someone else comes in and replaces them. A bit like fans with the UFC, because as we know, fans are rotational, or they go through cycles with the UFC, and we're seeing some of those maybe starting to drift away. The pandemic fans, I guess, who were Conor fans, some of them will be going because Conor's going. So yeah, everything's cyclic, everything's historical.
Yeah, really. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, we should be glad that the UFC is not willing to throw their money around and sign these guys to huge contracts. Because if they were, there would be no other organizations because they would have the money to just, be like a New York Yankees or a Los Angeles Dodgers and just sign all the fucking biggest stars, and everyone would be ass out because they got the money to throw around.
Oh, incidentally, I did see something on. I've got the page open somewhere, but I can't bother to look for it right now. I saw a page detailing what Sean O'Malley got paid for his last fight against Mirab, with everything included, with his sponsorship deal and all that kind of stuff. Around about 2.3 million, it said. They reckon he's going to go up 2.5 for his next one.
Ain't boxing money, but it's still a good fucking payday.
Exactly. Yeah. Not bad.
All right, bleeders. Well, I think with that's going to just about wrap us up here on this rendition of the Sunday Night Scuffle. Hopefully, you've all enjoyed yourself. Hell, you can't bring me down after Bryce got put to sleep last night. It don't matter what happens. So, anyways, we're going to get on out of here. So do yourselves a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're back every single week. And until then, thank you for listening. We're back every single week. Until then, thank you for listening to JVR, and we will catch you next time. Bye, guys.
Oh.
About 27 minutes, give or take, for that. That ain't bad.
That's not too bad.
I was gonna say like closer to 25, I think.
Yeah, I think we started on. Was it 5? Or was it 8?
5
yeah, 5 minutes, wasn't it? 27 minutes.
I'd say it's good enough. It's good enough.
Whatever bits and pieces I chop out.
Won't
be much in all likelihood. I never do.
Take a quick 2-minute break and then we'll jump right into this.
That's good for me. I can go get a drink and finish up. Well, at least have a few drags on my joint by the door.
Yep.
Sorry, Dave.
Can we make it 4 minutes or 5? 4 minutes?
Yeah, sure. Fine by me.
3:25?
Yeah.
Okay.
You gonna take a piss?
No, I'm gonna fucking hotbox a fucking cigarette and take a bang hit and fucking have a nice little cry and the rest of the time.
A hit with the shovel kills him pretty quick, or you just readjust the. Yeah,
this is going in a direction that my mental well-being can't take, Austin.
I'm
just telling you.
Let me just sum this up by saying this. I think that Mr. Bryce Mitchell, when he was talking about those dogs squealing, he was confusing the time that his Uncle Bubba came to town for the family reunion. Squeal, boy, squeal.
Oh my God. And now he takes it out on dogs.
That was apparently a horrific scene to be filmed, that one, apparently.
Oh my God.
I was terrified.
Spread them buns, Bryce, and spit on that corn on the cob.
Oh, no.
Give it that old tour.
I still think she's funny. I don't know. I don't dislike her like the rest of the internet.
I don't dislike her at all. She might be going to jail, but or prison.
No, she won't. She's not gonna go to jail.
Okay,
Speaking of
Nah,
pigs
'cause-
squealing, when I intro this Bryce fight, when we get to the Bryce fight, Dave, you throw that banjo bit in to start it out, all right?
You talking to me?
Yeah, you throw that deliverance
Yes.
banjo in. We'll hear that again.
Banjos.
Even if it's just 3 seconds of banjo to open it up, that's all I want.
You can get the riff in there, definitely. Are we going at 45 then?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. And we're starting with from the Reyes fight, aren't we, Laser?
Yeah, first fight of the main card.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, wait a second. I'm looking at that goddamn thing. How come you got 70 fucking points?
Who?
The draft.
Because he brought 35 points into that night.
Yeah.
What?
I couldn't think of it because Gene Silva already had 35 points, and he made 35 last night.
Yes,
So
just
it's
added it up,
70.
70. It's his total.
Oh,
It's not on the nine.
God.
I
wish.
couldn't think of a good way to have. I mean, I could do like 35 plus 35.
No. So adding it up's logical. It just follows.
Yeah, I
through.
like the cumulative there. That's good.
Yeah, makes much more sense.
okay. That was
It's kind
confusing
of
the
nice
fuck out
because
of me. I'm sorry.
so far Gene Silva is the VIP of the year as far as points.
So far. Yeah.
I was like tripping out. I'm like, there's no way he had fucking 70 points on the night.
Fuck you, Austin.
Fuck you.
I get to abuse other cast members. It's not even me.
I still love the fact that Henry gets booed. I still love that.
Mr. Cringe stole his belt, didn't he?
I think it's a fake thing.
You think?
Yeah,
Oh.
he sold it on eBay. He did.
He sold his producer's camera bag as well, then apparently. So
Do we want to use the Long Island Luke and Gaff tagline?
yeah, I've not heard it, but yeah.
They didn't do the greatest job, but I had them. They both did it separately, so we can cut it however we want it, like however we want to blend
of
it.
course, yeah. They did it. Let's use it. They foolish not to.
I think Luke bumbled one word, and Gaff had to do it twice because he got it wrong the first time.
Hey, give it
I'm
to
down with
Dave.
whatever.
I'm sure Dave will work his magic.
Do you have the audio of that?
Of them doing the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have the video clip, but yeah, I could probably extract the audio.
You can just post the audio. That would be fine. I don't watch.
Count him in, Dave.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Larry was saying that you're a good boy. Is that true? You want a cookie?